All right. What are we doing here? Looks like I got everything set up. Yep. That looks good. Okay. All right. What are we working on today, guys? We are getting prepped for our next version of the course. Also, I was looking on Humble Bundle. It looks like they got a nice little retro game that I might get. I remember most of these games. I used to play on Armor games quite a bit when I was younger, so I might do that. Also, we got to make a new version of the automation course. So let's get a new one of these open and start working on the stuff for the class that's coming up in a little bit. If anybody has any questions, let me know. You guys should be able to hear me. Yep. Got my everything here. Let's go. Automation course. Unit 6. Start renaming everything. Delete that. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll be kind of hanging out, working on this stuff. Let's pull this stuff up as we need it. Change it to Unit 6. Move this over here. Get this out of the way for now. What do we have in the background here? Oh, we got all kinds of stuff going on that we got to work on. Unit 6 for automation. Pull this over here. So we'll be working on here in a minute. Yeah, but if anybody's got questions about the Linux group or, I don't know, doing Linux professionally, any of that kind of stuff, that's what we've mostly been working on around here lately. I can answer what I can answer. I can tell you what I think about the industry, all that kind of stuff. Everybody's always worried about the industry going under and AI is going to take all our jobs and stuff, and I don't see it like that. So I try to give you guys the stuff that I think is useful. So feel free to let me know if you have questions about that stuff. All right, what am I doing here? I gotta find. Last week is gonna become this last week. Let's go ahead and just let me see. Delete all that. This will be last week now. Is that what we did for last week? Let's go look. So we've got the syllabus up here somewhere. Let's go find the syllabus. Week overview. And we really don't need, for last week, we can just call it a review. And then let's grab this to duplicate this slide. Move this to the very bottom. Runamucker, how's it going? Give me a question. Give me a second. I'll answer your question. Let's say this week, and then our Unit 6 review is going to be Docker stuff. What was your question? How do we vibe sysadmin for Linux professionally? Oh, I don't really do much vibing as far as like the term nowadays, which is vibe coding. Although I can tell you there's a fair amount of stuff that just pops up in VS Code that will fix. I mean, it'll try to code a lot of stuff for you. So I guess you can get away with kind of like a structure. So like I can go to any of these labs. So I got to make more. I got to make the Unit 5 and Unit 6 labs. But Unit 6 labs, I've got a lot of stuff for. So we could go into one of these and make a file. So let me actually generate a new one of these, and we could just make a file. Or I think we might just be able to do like a new text file. And I can say something like this, like it's for sure going to be bin bash, let's say. And then I could say something like, I need to, I don't know, run Bacula, director, Bacula config commands, and maybe this will try to fix some stuff for me, and maybe it'll, maybe, I don't know, I don't even know what it's doing. But you only get like, I think 3,000 of those a day for free or something like that. I don't really use any of them. That's not going to be great. It's not going to have a lot of Bacula stuff because there's not a lot of Bacula stuff online for it to rip. But my point is, if you knew the tasks that you needed to do, this thing will try to write a lot of them for you. I think anymore nowadays, I mean, I have so many scripts written over the years and just things that I can reference that, like, if I'm trying to build something, I'm probably building it from something I've already built. So for a lot of stuff for me, it's just going and searching things I've already written. But that's kind of a, I mean, that's something that I think about. Let's not save that. But I think you get about 3,000 of those a day for free. And then I think you pay like $15 a month and get something like unlimited, I read. But maybe the limit was 10,000 or 15,000 or something, but it was kind of crazy. Paul, you said it's rating up there. No, hey, what's it up in Idaho right now? It's supposed to get to like 80 something today in Phoenix. I think it's hitting almost 90. Let me see. Hold on. It's 1 o'clock, so it's probably getting almost as warm as it. It's 84 right now out here. I heard from some people this week that Idaho was down in like the 40s or something, even during the day. So that's kind of cold. All right. But anyway, so we're gonna build some labs. I've got the Unit 5 labs in my head to put together, but what I was telling the wife is I'm already behind on those labs, and I already gave you guys a lot of work for last week, so I'd rather catch up and do Unit 6 today, and then go back and do my Unit 5 lab later. I know, it sounds weird, but that's kind of the way that I think about this in my head. So we'll get Unit 6 going, so Unit 6 is all caught up, and then Unit 5's already late, right? I mean, I might as well just keep going. 52 right now? Is it pretty overcast, Paul? Let's kind of... It's not terrible. Not the worst I've heard of. All right, let's keep going. So Unit 6, this will be overview and then review. So duplicate that slide. This will be overview up here. And actually, I tend to just make the review at the end, so I can just delete this slide for now. But for people that haven't been around for the course or anything, when we started out, so for this week, this will be 1 November. Let's go see what this looks like. So this is a 6th class meeting. If we had any announcements or reschedules, they'd go here. We're pretty okay on all of that stuff. Light rain but solid overcast, 37 tomorrow. Oh, I don't envy that at all. Last week we did variables and variable precedents and default values and those kind of things, so that's all there. And then we do the Unit 5 review. So this is again a review of last week's stuff. Run through last week's stuff. Boom, 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 boom. All that looks fine. And then this week, right? So this week has then an overview. And from here I can duplicate this slide. And from whatever we put in the overview, we can go from there. So let's say that I have this drawing here. Go grab my drawing here real quick. And this is, oh shoot, what is going on here, guys? Hold on. I can't get frickin' close. Get the fuck out of the way. all these things are just keep popping up. 1 second here. So here's kind of my container image workflow. This isn't the only way to do it, but this is kind of a way that I think of it. So I'm gonna zoom in on this a little bit, and then I'm gonna grab it, and then I'm gonna say right there, and we're going to call this our container image workflow. So that'll be our overview, and then the next page, so the first one will be container image workflow example, right? And then Docker images tools. We're going to use this week Packer, and we're going to use Apptainer. Those are going to be two that I kind of use to show you guys some of this stuff. Let's grab this, copy, boom. And then this overview will be... Actually, fun for this one, I can just get out of there. Boom. You get out of there too. Container image workflow. Something like this. This is like a start of our talk, right? I always have something like this where I'm trying to include one of these at the top of all of our talks so that we have something to kind of, I almost want to say like bite in on at the beginning. So then everybody knows like, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull something down from external repo. We're going to modify it in some way. Oh, actually, you know what? I need to change that. I thought about this earlier. So this is modify image, but that's not the whole thing. Modify image is modify image by adding layers, and this can be Docker files, Packer. It can be Aptainer. There's all. I mean, this is not an exhaustive list of tools by any stretch of the imagination, but this is kind of the way that we use it. Images, artifacts, pushed up. Yep. Okay. So this is a better version of the picture that I want to use. So let's grab that again. This will be part of our, this will be part of our discussion for today. Control C. Boom, you get out of there because you're garbage. And then this will be much more of like in line with what we're going to talk about today. So for anybody that's wondering what I'm talking about, in the group in about in 2 hours we're going to meet for the security unit 6. We've already done that, so that's really just me running through it again. And then in 4 hours, 4 hours from now, so at 5, so we'll run that from 3 to 4, then we'll take a little break, and then that next one. If anybody wants to know where that is, that's up in the Discord, and the Discord is always your time zone. So if you guys are ever looking on Discord here, and you're like, hey, I'm lost, I don't know where things are, you just go up to the events, and here's the stuff for today. So here's our security engineering course, we're doing Unit 6 today, and then here's our 16-week automation course, we're doing Unit 6 today. Unit 6 today is mapped to, where's it at? Here. Here's our syllabus for, this is our admin course. I think this is our security engineering course. So security engineering today, oh, maybe this is security engineering. Nope. This is also, I don't know where we're at anymore. It's admin, automation. So admin we're not running right now, but you can always go play with it. These are all free online too if anybody needs them. Security engineering should be here. And this one for this week is, what is Unit 6? Monitoring and parsing logs. So we're going to do some stuff with monitoring and sending stuff up into event bridges and those kind of things. So there's a lot of stuff going on there that I think will be valuable for you guys to see. Yeah, that'll be good for people that don't do security stuff. I think that'll be useful for you, and if you especially want to get into security. What the hell is going on here? How are both of these still? I don't know. Automation course looks like this. Automation course for this week is going to be getting into Docker. So automating Docker builds, automating Docker, you pull something down, you modify it in the way you want, and then you push it up to your own repository as an artifact. And that's kind of what this starts to talk about. We can have automations trigger from that. We can pull, we can have automations trigger from GitHub Actions, events in our system. So like event bus, event-driven stuff. We're going to have all kinds of things that can there. So tools to maintain images. What can trigger a build? We've got, I don't know, GitHub Actions. It can be manual. You can manually kick stuff off if you want. Events. Kafka type stuff, event bus. Or is it event bridge? think it's Event Bridge in AWS. What other ones might we use? Those are the main ones that I use. You could use OpenSearch for this, and you technically could use Splunk for this as well. Although I don't think they're really designed for that. But you can have them trigger events. So those are all things. OpenSearch was also Elasticsearch before, but most people call it OpenSearch now because of the fork. So this will be kind of my way of moving through this, or this is kind of my plan going forward with this week. Let me pull up I think I have my automation worksheet already open. Where's that at? Yeah. So here's my automation worksheet for this week. I gotta change this stuff to Unit 6 because again, I'm kind of behind like I always am. I'm also the on-call again. We had somebody at work, I think their wife got sick or something, so I took the on-call for them. You guys might wonder, but I'm kind of a glutton for punishment when it comes to system work. So I told them I'm going to be sitting here all weekend anyways. I might as well just have my other laptop on. So I have a different one that I use for all my NOAA work. But let's do... All right, so this week we're using a few different tools. One's going to be Packer. One's going to be... so we're going to use Packer and Terraform this week, by the way. For people that are doing the course with me and like, oh, hey, what's Scott doing for automation? All he's been doing is Ansible up and down the page and can't stand any more Ansible. Well, that's fine. We're going to do Packer to Terraform this week. So I think that'll be good for people too, because even if your organization's not going to use Packer, even if they're not going to use Apptainer, you can still at least understand like the reasoning behind why. So if it takes a long time to retool an infrastructure environment, it makes sense why developers just want to be able to snap really quick and build an environment, right? Like they don't want me to have to go retool from Rocky 8 to Rocky 9, or like go to RHEL 10 for them to be able to stand, or maybe we have an all RHEL environment, but they need to stand up some instance of Ubuntu to run something. Like deployments inside of containers is a tremendously useful tool for developers to be able to rapidly build things. So even if you say, well, Scott, my environment, my company's never planning on using that, I guarantee, one, that your devs want to use it, because they don't, part of like, if when you meet people, or if any of you are software engineers, like people that do that stuff want to write their stuff and rapidly test and rapidly fail and rapidly get back on the board of whatever they're doing. They don't want to be dicking around with guys like me slowly moving the environment forward, trying to keep everything stable. Like my stability is the exact opposite of like the chaos that like a software engineer is trying to ride and build and do all that stuff, right? So where I'm going with that is I may still be called to support their tool though, or for security reasons, we might not be able to give them full control of something. So I still want to know how to use their tool and how to support it and that kind of stuff. So we're going to do a little bit of that stuff. And let me see, I have some other docs open here. So here's the Apptainer guide, and I built out some Apptainer notes. So I got this working earlier inside of the Killer Coda environment. So this is going to be built into Unit 6. We're going to do some Apptainer. We're going to do some other stuff with Packer and Kubernetes and stuff. So we did all this stuff. Probably built some encrypted stuff maybe. But I need to figure out what kind of discussion questions I want to ask for today then. My discussion questions tend to be around like understanding the system. Then my first question is almost always around like understanding what we're doing, and then my second discussion question is almost always around the system as it actually works. That tends to be the way that I write things. In fact, if I were to pull up my discussion questions for this other course, so security, and then if I were to go, what the heck's going on here? If I were to go to security unit 6, here's what the discussion questions look like for this week. First one is some SRE stuff, and what are some concepts that you learn, and what are some things that you might know about that. And then down here, I think we talked about maybe something a little more practical, like how would you deploy them. So maybe I don't follow a perfect model, but that's kind of the way I try to do it. So let's see. What are we gonna do for this week? We could also include in there the questions or the different pieces from our lab, which I have the lab kind of put together again, but I have to go move it over there. Hey, Paul, you knew we were up in Montana a few weeks ago, right? I don't know if you're still around, Paul, but we were up in Montana a few, probably almost a month ago now. Me and the wife were up there. So yeah, it was actually snowing up there in late, what was that? It would have been like right at the beginning of October. Me and the wife went up there. So yeah, we were up there. And then the one day we went and saw a bear. She was pretty happy getting to see a 1,300-pound bear. She just wanted to go hug the thing, and I'm like, we're not allowed to go hug the 1,300-pound bear. It's not how life is gonna pan out for us here. All right, so what am I doing? I gotta think of the discussion questions that I want for this week. And then what else do we got? Got good stuff going on here. Looks like people are still down in the chat somewhere. We'll be doing that stuff later. Looks like we got more people hopping in. The bot always welcomes you. In case you guys don't know, the bot is not always super polite to people, but it does that. And then we got some job and interview discussions. People are in here talking about whatever fun stuff they're talking about. All right, let's also move this up so it's not in the way of chat as much. It's better. Oh, and then I had to rebuild Rocky 2, so that was kind of a hassle. Rocky 2 was down this morning. You say, well, how do you know that, Scott? Well, because in Discord, we have a sandbox, and every morning, if there's any servers that are unreachable, so something happened to Rocky 2, probably yesterday when I was beating him up. I was doing some disk stuff in there, and probably something I did to him made him not boot properly, so I went in there and I fixed him. If we were to rerun that check right now, that should run clean in the environment. All the nodes are back up. There might be one thing I want to do, though, for this, which is clean up my host keys. So I think that's coming off of right here, maybe. So let's do a cron tab -L, and that's just the bastion. Yeah, I don't think that's the check. I think my check's going on over here. Let's see. Yeah, that's that one. So we'll VI this. Actually, we don't even need to do any of that stuff. We just need to VI root.ssh known hosts, and then we just look for Rocky 2, and we just get rid of him. And there's no other ones, so we'll clean him out. And then just for fun, SSH to Rocky 2, and now we've got a new key in there. That's fine. I don't care if I actually get connected or not. If I needed to connect, I need to use this other key, and the key is right here. That's the key that I would use. So I'm not really super worried about that right now, but I just wanted to make sure that my host check didn't find that there was a new server in that place, which it would have, and then it wouldn't have been able to connect over there with Ansible. So that's now cleaned up. Tomorrow morning we'll have a clean set of systems here for our lab check. That gets reported out every morning for people that don't know how that works. That's just some basic little Ansible. All right, so I need to go. This should be capital K for Kafka. Let's keep going here. So we got that. What can trigger a build? Let's go with. I have a list here that I kind of like. Get this out of the way. Let's go. Alright, we have all that stuff done, so I can close that out. What can trigger a build? Any of those things. GitHub, perfect. Manually, event. We show this. I really should have, yeah, I guess I'll just mention when we're talking about it that the triggers are happening right here, right? And then we can modify a thing, push up, and have an artifact that's versioned according to semantic versioning. Those automations can trigger tests of artifacts for functionality and then tag them up as ready to move into future stages. So that's, yeah, that's pretty much what we need there. Let's duplicate the slide. Actually, you know what? I don't want to duplicate that slide. Control Z. We'll duplicate this slide better. Move it down here, and then we're going to make this be give a quick little usefulness. Useful for everybody know what I mean by non-exhaustive list? It means there's other things that could also be there. Let's say bring your own environment. BYOE. That's a way that people sometimes say that, BYOE, bring your own environment. So if it worked on my machine, it can work on any machine as long as I push the container. Reproducible science. So a lot of times we'll have, you know what? I don't like that. I can't move this in. That's one of the annoying things about this thing. Whatever. Libraries, right? Libraries and scripts. You know, in place. Those are some reasons, right? We've got like software appliances, so static environments. Right, and this can be a whole bunch of them. Legacy code. We get there's a lot of reasons to use Docker images, right? Legacy code can emulate older OS environments, right? So that's something that we sometimes use it for, and very custom or specific software environments. It kind of only have to set stuff up one time, and then it's redeployed over and over again. So those are some of the reasons that are kind of nice to use Docker images, right? But then the setup of them causes a little bit of a not a problem, but you know, how do we set them up, right? So setting up. Right? We can use tools exist to make this easier. And then some of those tools are Packer. We got Apptainer, right? So we can use these tools to kind of deploy these environments as we need them. And then I'll probably show some of that. Apptainer is the word. Ignore all. It's funny how like PowerPoint takes a little while to actually ignore things when we go into doing it. All right, so let me move this out of the way. I am going to put some of this stuff in the additional notes though, so I need the page here. go down here to links. I'm going to say Aptainer. So useful links that I think people are going to need during this. Going to be some of this Packer stuff. Let's go Packer. So it's Packer with GitHub Actions. People are going to want that one. Provisioning. What other ones do I need? Variables. Let's just say the whole Packer tutorial library. These are going to be places where people can go dig deeper in if they want to during their like setup as they're going through the course or whatever. Let's do that. There we go. Okay. So those are going to be things that people are going to want to probably dig into more. Terms for this week. Let's clean this up here. What are the terms we want? We want Docker images, Docker, probably Docker processes, right? We're going to want runtime. We might say container environment. Those are just some terminologies. And then this is also, I guess, a container runtime environment, because you're going to have different runtime environments. Most of us nowadays, we use like container D. Move this out of the way because I don't need this right now. All right. Lab is going to be lab 6 from the lab, unit 6 lab from the lab book. Digging deeper will be, there's going to be some, oops. Digging deeper, there'll be some more of that. And then, there we go. Okay. So now what I need to do, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with these questions. Like, what questions do I want to ask? But as I'm kind of working through this and putting together this week's stuff, I can start putting together the lab that I have for Killer Coda, because I have, again, I have a bunch of the notes over here already for, like, this is the Aptainer section. I have all the notes for the Packer, and then after we run Packer, we're going to deploy with Terraform just to do it, just to see a deployment of Terraform, which is, I mean, look, it's just another tool that can be used for your automation and stand-up of an environment. So when we look at like this, right, we're building out the first part, which is the Docker image and making it into an artifact in our environment. But then for testing, how would you deploy testing, right? Like, how might you do testing? Well, you got to get it into like a runtime state. So Terraform's a great tool for that. And we're going to use Terraform in the lab as well. I actually have labs up on Terraform already that show people how to do that stuff. And then I'm going to reference those a little bit. Those will be in the digging deeper section as well for people that just want to do some of that stuff. So like digging deeper will just be, as it normally is, just additional work for people that want to kind of get more into the system, you know, understand it better, that kind of stuff. I guess, I mean, our options here, we can start writing this stuff into the actual lab, or I could just be lazy and not do any of that and play video games instead. Some of you guys that were here when I first popped the screen up, there's a Humble bundle up that's all the old Armor games. Now, I don't know if any of you guys remember, but back in the day, the internet used to be mostly Flash games, and Armor games and Newgrounds tended to be two of the places that really had all of this just game stuff going on. And some of these games, I mean, I played the crap out of this one. I played the crap out of the Elephant games. I know I played Gemcraft because I love tower defense. So all of these games are, and I definitely played all the Infectionators. So this one is kind of cool. I don't remember any of these other ones, but I can almost guarantee they're fun games. So I might buy those here in a little bit and play on those too. But we'll probably do that after I get the work that I need to done. Also, the other thing I always have to do before the course starts is I need to go back and open up the security engineering course stuff. So we're in Unit 6 this week. So let's pull up our actual stuff for this week and make sure I review it, make sure I know what I wrote. So here's Unit 6. And then let me pull up I'll just pull up the worksheet and the logs here too. And then we'll look at those real quick. Just because, why not? This is what I'm working on anyways. Labs, log, and log parsing. We're going to go out. It looks like on these ones we're going to be doing the Killer Coda labs. We're going to do this stuff with our syslog. So if you've never done our syslog, you can set up multiple nodes. You can set up one node or many nodes to catch. And then you can set up many nodes to send data over to those logging nodes. When we first do it, we set it up in a just UDP. UDP just shotguns across the network, doesn't care if anybody listens to it. That's not great security. Logs just traversing arguably nobody should be listening on your network, but since we don't know that, and since maybe that's outside of our job function and we're not the ones watching for that, we should make all of our stuff secure. So I believe down here, we do a different lab to send data over. This one might not have the security stuff in it. Oh, then we do Kafka. Okay, fair enough. So this one won't be the secure one, but the secure one that we do, I think, is in Unit 10, where we actually lock down and use TCP, and then we have a established SSL certificate between the two nodes. So we got that. Let's go look at our labs for this week, or our worksheet for this week. We have SRE stuff, so site reliability and collecting logs. So I do need to drop these up in the Discord as well. Types of logs, the structure of the logging, that's very important to understand. If you tell me, hey Scott, I want to be serious about doing the engineering side of this and reading logs out. Logs have to get off of a system in real time, and the types of logs and the way that you parse those logs with your SIEM solution, SIEM, is very important. Some people call it like a SIM, but it looks like SIEM to me. SIEM. And then next, okay. So let's do this real quick. We're gonna go get this out. Come down here. Course discussions. I gotta make a new post, but it's in the security course, right? And then we'll go grab. Where's he at? Unit 6 discussion post 1. And then here is Unit 6 discussion post 1 for the people that are doing the security course. There, that's done. Get this out of the way. Do a new post for security. And we will do right here Unit 2 security post 2. And then here. And yeah, good. Security course. Okay. Now I'm gonna owe the automation people stuff, but I want to get the presentation done for them. So that'll be coming up. But here's the Linux Security Engineering Unit 6. Here's what we're gonna talk about. I need to pull those out. Hold on. We're not doing the annual, we already did the annual conference for this year, so there's actually no discussion for that week on that. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Okay. Hey Colcus, how's it going? I'm just reviewing some stuff for Unit 6, make sure I'm ready for the security engineering course. The security automation course, I have a lot of stuff done. In fact, I have my labs written up. I have all the tooling built that I'm going to add in. We're going to be doing Packer, Aptainer, and Terraform today. I forgot that I had forgotten about labs I wrote years ago on Terraform, so we're going to be doing a lot of that stuff. and I think I'm gonna make it pretty good. But I will get back to that in a second. I'm just going through the security one real quick. So last week in security, we did building repos, and this was kind of the stuff that we talked about for last week: fit for use, fit for warranty, creating repos locally and sharing them, and then patching enterprise systems. So okay, so that was all last week. Oh, so that's all I have for last week. I don't have I'm not keeping all my. What I do now is I kind of have like a review that has more of the stuff. But this week we're storing logs and parsing logs. So that's important. Security engineering, of course. What is a log? Immutable record of actions. How do we use logs? Where do they go? How do we store them? All that stuff. So log usage, we troubleshoot, we do security auditing, we do checkpointing of performance and debugging applications. Sure. There's a bunch of different log formats. There's the RFC 3164 BSD. That's a Berkeley Secure Distribution or Berkeley Science. I forget. I think it's Berkeley Secure Distribution. And then IETF, which is the Internet Engineering Task Force 5424. This is a more common one nowadays, but you see both of them still in the systems world. Logs must be timestamped. We commonly use 8601, ISO 8601, very common timestamping that you guys will run into in your career. So you want to know that. Logs must be categorized by severity. That's really important because if you don't have severity, you don't really know where to route things and how important they are and all that kind of stuff. Common in Linux will do debug, info, notice, warn, error, and crit. And then alert and emergency too. Yep, those are all common. So here's the BSD format. It looks something like this at the bottom. You'll see the date. You'll see the date and time. Then you'll see the name of the host. So this is the host name here. Should have it right there. Yep. And then you've got the process, and if possible, the name of the process. So like if there's a tag with it. But at the bare minimum, we need the process ID so we can go look back. And then there's some message that comes with it. So this is kind of useful. It's got a lot of good information on here. And that's kind of the older way that you'll see messages. This is not as common. Also, the year is not tagged on this, so that's important if you're digging through old messages. I have systems where sometimes I have messages for many maybe almost up around 5. I have a few systems that have messages as old as 10 years for government stuff, where like things are like we know what happened on the system. So you do need a date, a full date. This doesn't calculate the year, so this doesn't have the year. That's important to know. So kind of on the more modern way, that's funny. I might need to move that up because I feel like that's hard for you guys to see right there. Let me move this down for a second. That doesn't make it any better. If I move this up out of the way, you guys can see that better, I think. But that's a more common time zone format. So I see 2023, so I know the year, and then I see that in a full. That is an actual proper time format according to ISO 8601 right there. And then it's got the host name. It's got the app if it knows it. It's got the process ID, the PID. That's always super important. And then just some other information about what's going on inside of the system. So that's a useful format. That's a more modern type of format than the BSD one. Are they both valid? Absolutely. You're going to run into both of these in your career. I don't care how long you're in Linux. You're going to run into these. You're going to run into these even more if you do Unix, right? So, and Unix is still kicking. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. Here's the systemd journal. This one's more. This one's very common for systemd stuff, and journal CTL is how we read these because this is in a binary format. You can't go manually read these. Even if you find where they're located, you can't go read them. You actually need to use journal CTL to read these off. So that's kind of an important thing to note. If you're like storing this data somewhere and you don't have something that can read it, you're not going to be able to read this because this is in binary format. So it's unreadable to people. So just know that, but it's got some of the same types of information on it. All right, and then capturing logs. Forgot I had this in here. That's going to be funny. Yeah, you know what? Wait a minute. I'm not supposed to get ads. Yeah, whatever. I'm not supposed to get ads on my YouTube anymore. But I think that's logged in on my college YouTube, which interestingly enough. I don't know why that would be different, but anyways, log storage and rotation, log rotations, automation. So we do need to make sure that we're not just storing information on systems, because if we do that forever, we're going to fill up systems. Logs will always expand. It's a thing called Parkinson's law. Work will expand to the amount of space you have for it, or the amount of time you have for it. And another way to say that Parkinson's law is logs will always expand to the amount of space that you have for them as well. So, yeah. Sending logs off the server. There's some common architectures. These are the 4 major ways that we move stuff off. So I'll talk about that in the class. We'll talk about choosing the right architecture and why we would use each of those, where the trade-offs are, that kind of stuff. And then where do we use the logs? Oh, that's funny. If you don't know that reference, you got to go watch Conan the Barbarian. No, that's Conan the Destroyer. That's the second one, which is by far the better movie. The first one is okay. The second one is by far a better movie. Effective log parsing, right? So we parse with text tools. The computer does it better than we do. And then we can go parse with special tools. These are tools designed to read these things. You know, there's all kinds of tools out there for parsing, PyParser and CSV type tools for reading logs and that kind of stuff. And then when to use special tools, if you have large volumes, complex log formats. If you need real-time analysis and alerting, there are some things that the system can do for you. Sometimes you need to get in there and be able to parse through a log and see when incidents started and that kind of stuff. So it is important to be able to read through logs quickly. I'm going to show you guys my little tricks and stuff like that on it when we do the class here in about an hour out from the class, and then review. So I think all in all, I'm pretty ready for that one. That one should be good. I'm going to just save it and then move it out of the way. So that was just kind of our review. And then I grabbed the 2 discussion questions for today for those guys. This is my, okay, yeah, this is the automation one, so I need to keep working on that one. Then automation has the container image, that, and then I can keep, we'll put Terraform in here as well, because we're going to use both of those in there. So, Hatebringer, how's it going? We are just working on I'm putting together some lab stuff for the guys later. We meet on Saturdays up in the Linux group, so I'm just putting together some stuff for those guys. I gotta write these. I gotta think of what I want to do for the discussion post. This is what our discussion looked like yesterday or last week, and it had to deal with, you know, looking at variables and understanding which ones are the defaults and which ones are the. I don't think anybody's even answered these yet. Like if I go look for Unit 5, I don't think anybody even answered these for automation. Did they? Oh, maybe they did. I didn't even see that. Oh, I didn't realize people had actually been doing these. Maybe these were just populated today. Yeah, these are from today. Okay, I gotta go read these because these are newer. Yeah, I don't think anybody even did these until today. Yeah. So I was worried nobody was even doing the course anymore. All right. Course is free. It's just up in the Discord. So I gotta figure out what I want to do with my Unit 6 discussion questions. Maybe I'll put together the lab. And then after I get the lab together, that'll make more sense for what I'm doing on this next part. So it's funny, every time I go to touch this lab right here, I lose all my motivation. I guess I got to do it. So there's no just not doing it. I gotta do it. Let me make sure I have my lab workbook open too. I don't see my lab workbook. Hold on. That's the automation course guide. All right, here's the lab book. All right. So I do need to update this for Unit 4 and 5 and 6. So this is also something I got to work on here in a minute. All right. Have I hit an hour yet? I have not hit an hour yet. I try to do a minimum of an hour whenever sitting here working on this stuff with you guys. Let's go look at the labs real quick. We'll do this real quick and see what the labs look like for the security course. Look at the security course real quick. Maybe that one's a little more fun for me. Oh my gosh. Let's go look at this lab. We haven't done this one in a while. We're going to build out this workflow. Skip verification. If you guys have never been in a Killer Coda lab, they are free. Pretty good little labs. Let's go look at this one. This one says your team is going to be integrating Apache Kafka message bus with existing infrastructure. So this is what we're trying to build in our system. We're going to have some existing company infrastructure over here called Loki and Grafana, and any node sending Promtail messages into Loki. This is what, for all intents and purposes, already exists for your company. You're going to build this Kafka piece on for testing, and you're going to send messages into Kafka. You're going to have this node pull them out just to grab them and for fun, and then send them over there. Like maybe you had some kind of disparate network. Maybe you had something like only this server is air-gapped and able to send traffic out of the system. So maybe multiple nodes need to send into Kafka. I don't know. I don't know exactly why you might use this, but I definitely have seen a fair amount of Kafka event-driven type systems recently in the last 5 years of my career or so. So there's a fair amount of those. So we come over here and we're going to build that. We say your team has determined they need to offload Linux logs in your environment. So we're going to, we know that Grafana can do that as a visualization tool, so we're going to deploy it to the server as a daemon. Okay, that's not super hard to do. Let's just set up the repositories that are needed, or these are just some basic software requirements. Okay, this is the first requirement of getting the key so that we can make the required software repo. Once we do the software repo, we're going to put Grafana on the system. Grafana takes a minute or so to download and run, so we'll let that happen. Boom. It'll take a second. It's always these systems, I think in the last few months have started taking longer to run updates anyways. All right, so we're going to do a daemon reload, which it already did. Start the Grafana server, and then we'll check the status of it. And we can come down here and see that Grafana is not yet listening. It takes about 10 seconds or so for Grafana to really wake up the first time. So when it does come up, we're going to see that we are listening on port 3000. Probably right about there. Good. Okay. So now we see all that. We can log in for the first time. We're going to be admin. We'll change that because that is, internet facing. So you don't want to leave admin too long on any interface that's sitting on the internet. Should come up. Yep. Admin, admin. We're going to change that password to something super secure. And then we're going to get in there and have Grafana up. Okay, good. We're going to jump forward now and say our team has decided to use Loki as the log aggregator. Can you share download locations for Rocky and Ubuntu? Paul, are you talking about like where I would get them from, or are you talking about like, I'm not, I mean, this is where I would get Rocky. Right here. That's, I mean, this is where I would download it if that's what you're asking. Drop that on the YouTube side for people that want that. Yeah, this, I mean, this is where I would go get that if I needed it. Let's make directory for op Loki. Let's cd to Loki, and then we're going to download Loki. Loki always gives us the most trouble of all the apps because this config file that we have doesn't always work. So let's make sure that there's our service file that says call the Loki that you just downloaded and run that config file that we had already set up. Let's enable it and turn it on, and then let's make sure that it's listening. All right, it's listening. Loki's not broken in this environment. I think they changed their config files more than any other open source tool I've used. So every few months I have to go fix the Loki lab for my default. But if you, by the way, so if you're in here and you want to see what we set up to listen on our system, this is what we're setting up to listen right here. It's all the defaults, right? Loki is just going to be running on our system, nothing special happening. Now we have to do one more thing. We're going to set up Promtail, which is a different tool. And when we set up Promtail, there are some little proclivities to know about down in there. And I'll show you them right here. They are that we're using syslog out of varlog syslog and authlog out of varlog authlog. That is different than if you're using a Red Hat system where it would be varlog messages here, and this would be varlog secure. So Red Hat and Ubuntu obviously have different logging and different types of things happening. So depending on the types of nodes you're running these on, you would modify these in some way. So we're going to start that up. We got to copy that file in and then start it up. And then we'll check it and see that Promtail is running on our system. So if we were to come back over here real quick and just what we're doing, Grafana and Loki are up, and now Promtail is set up on one of our nodes sending data into Loki. That's what it's doing. Now we got to go set up this part over here as though it were the new infrastructure, or the new test stuff that we were doing. Okay. So I come over here, hit check, and now this next thing, we'll set up the Grafana piece real quick. So we go into Grafana and we set these values. It looks like this. We just go to home. Maybe here, connections. We'll go to connections. We'll add a new connection, and that connection will be, you know, necessity. Since we're using Loki, it'll be Loki. And then since we know the data here for Loki, it's on the local machine 3100. So add a new data source. This is 127.0.0.1 3100. Loki can be its name. That's fine. We don't have anything special here. We'll save and test and read from Loki. I really like that about Grafana. Grafana gives you that it read correctly. So then I come back here over to home, and I think that there's a dashboard, so we'll import the dashboard 13639, and we'll make sure that our dashboard is reading all the data. So we'll say no new import. We'll go drop that URL or load ID right there, and it'll grab that, and we'll select the Loki data source that we had. And then now right here, we immediately start getting auth and syslog values in our server, right? And we do it in a different lab where we actually make events that show up in there. We add users, we do whatever. We're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go move over, and we're going to integrate our Kafka piece of this, right? So Kafka is always ready to write. It is a system bus that allows you to send any number of messages in as producers and read any number of messages out as consumers, right? Here's some information about this. We'll make a namespace for Kafka. We will make sure that Zookeeper is working. So if we want to look at that file, cat answers Zookeeper, this is all it's doing. It's making a service that we can point to right here. and then it's making the actual deployment. That's all it's doing. It's nothing special. So then we'll check and we'll see those things built. We'll see that they are created and running and they have their IP addresses, which the service will only do that if it's got a backend, so that's good. And then we can go describe and we can see that there's an endpoint, so there's a place that we're sending Zookeeper traffic. Now Zookeeper is needed for Kafka to work, so we'll just do that. And then we're going to make the Kafka part, and then we're going to go look and see that's still container creating, so we might need about 30 seconds or so. And it'll finish for us here, and then we'll see container still creating, so we'll give it a second. It should be named something Kafka Broker, and then we'll be able to connect to it. Ah, there it is. And he's got an IP address, and his IP address is the proper endpoint for the service, meaning we can always point to the service and it'll always drop down into the correct connection. So Kafka service points to Kafka. The Zookeeper service from earlier always pointed to the Zookeeper. That's interesting. Okay. So now we'll install a tool called Kafka Cat. This is just a useful tool for us to send information and pull it pretty quickly. We'll make sure that some port forwarding is on just so that our server is properly seeing any requests that come in. Pretty straightforward stuff. Nothing special going on there. And then now we're going to send in some messages here. Just a few messages here. And then we can go read them back out and see those messages on the system. Right? Now, if we did all that right, then we have the basic Apache Kafka setup. We can send messages and we could read messages out. What we need to do, though, according to this drawing, is we need to send messages with like Kafka Cat or something, some producer making messages, and then one node with Promtail reading messages out. So let's go look at this solution. We're just going to make a loop right here that just keeps generating these messages every, I don't know, 3 seconds or so. Yeah, every 3 seconds it's going to do that. We're going to come up here and open a new tab. And in this new tab, we're going to go look at, we're just going to cd to opt Promtail. And we're going to vi Promtail dot, local config. And at the bottom of this, we're going to add this line, which is now going to allow us to read out from Kafka in our environment. So Kafka, the broker, is going to use node 01 on 31,000, and then the jobs can be called Kafka. All right. Escape : WQ, and we're going to restart Promtail. And when we do that, we should be able to, over here, refresh this, and now see Kafka coming in, and now we're starting to see those Kafka messages running all the way through our system. So and by the way, we can set this to refresh every 10 seconds. So we should see 3 more every 10 seconds approximately. So we're at this one. Oh, and these messages are random between, I think 1 and 10. So 5, 1, 6 were the last ones. And every 3 seconds, you'll see a new one of those right in there. Right there. Well, I guess across the screen over there. So. Yeah, Paul, I'm running Rocky 9 everywhere. I haven't jumped to 10 yet. I probably should put 10 in my home lab. Paul, I don't think you were on, but I put a big old Proxmox server in here a couple weeks ago, and then it's funny, I literally haven't even done anything with it. I've built one thing out there, which is a host box system. I connected to it so I could automate everything to it, and then I haven't touched it since. So it's like, yeah, I haven't done anything with it since. All right, so that's one of the labs for today when we meet up in the group. But this is important stuff for people who want to understand how the data flow in our system. Like, so you don't have, I mean, without good logging, you don't have good understanding of what's going on in your system, like live. Logs are trying to give you information about what's happening, and you have to sometimes get them into, what we call like a visibility space where people can see them. It's boring to just look at some, like I have log monitors that don't make a bunch of sense to look at all day. Like this log monitor, this doesn't make a lot of sense to look at all day. But it does show me in the last 6 hours how many people have tried to get into my system. It's a good number of people. And sometimes the bots are pretty active and sometimes they're not, right? That's less useful than like this as a heads up display. And this one's normally on 7 days, so it's more useful than it is now. Looks more like this normally. And then this one's pretty... No, that one's not as useful. This one's pretty useful right here because this shows me how well the lab's doing. Oh, and I should see Rocky 2 backup. There's my Rocky 2 server backup. Remember, he was down yesterday. So now he's back up and running because we got him working last night. So, Paul, I run Rocky. I run in the home lab. I run Rocky Linux mostly. But I do have Ubuntu servers in my environment. I obviously have XCPNG and Proxmox running. I do have a couple of SUSE Linux hanging around, like from OpenSUSE, mainly because I do work on. So I'm mostly a SUSE shop at work at NOAA. So National Oceanographic Atmospheric Agency, internal to one of our projects, is a heavily SUSE, which is SLES. We run it as SLES, which is SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. That's mostly what I run internally. Although most of you guys know, to me, Linux is Linux. As long as I know the proclivities of like where the logs are and you know what the different networking configs are and stuff, like the little changes between them aren't that big of a deal once you're using it for a long time, as far as setting it up and stuff. Or I don't think it's that much of a difference to me, anyways. You just got to be able to context switch between the devices you're on or whatever. All right. What else do we got? I'll probably keep working on. So the security stuff's all set. Security stuff's good. I'm gonna get the automation stuff done here in the next little bit, and then probably I'll hop on. Let's see. I'll be. Yeah, in an hour we're doing the security engineering group, and then I'll take a break for an hour and probably finish up the last of the stuff, and then the automation course will go after that. So for people that want to hang out and do that, all you got to do is hop in our Discord. Discord's free. You can go do stuff in there. And I definitely appreciate you guys coming. We'll probably record the automation stuff tomorrow morning, like we normally do, and then we'll be around after that. So I'm gonna hop on end of stream here. We don't need to raid anybody out because there's not that many people here. But for people that are around, I appreciate you guys coming. I will see some of you guys